The year is 1987. Big hair, neon colors, and the golden age of arcade cabinets. Just 1 year earlier, Sega dropped their shiny new Master System into North America, ready to challenge the Nintendo Entertainment System. And now, Sega decided to port their arcade game Wonder Boy into their system. In this video, we'll go back and look into the Sega Master System version of the game, with some mentions of the Game Gear port as well, and look into the magazine coverage of it all. Originally hitting arcades in 1986, Wonder Boy was developed by Escape and published by Sega. The game's success led to a wave of ports. Sega brought it to the SG-1000, the Master System, and the Game Gear, while Activision handled the home computer version of the ZX Spectrum, Commodore 64, and Amstrad CPC. I found a total of 26 magazines that wrote about the game. These mentions started in 1987 when the game was launched on the Master System and ended in 1983, giving the game 7 years of coverage. The earliest trace of Wonder Boy I could dig up in the press takes us back to January 1987, and that was on the Computer Entertainer Volume 5, number 10. This issue focused their first page on the CES previews, the big show where companies show their upcoming titles. They had a snippet titled New Games to be Shown by Sega, where they talked about licensed titles like Ghostbusters and Rocky, a brand new light phaser game called Shooting Gallery, and a bunch of arcade conversions, including Quarlet, Woody Pop, Space Harrier, and of course Wonder Boy. In February 1987, in Computer Entertainer number 11, they talked about the CES show again, and on page 10, they go a bit more into the Sega Master System, saying that the lineup of new Sega cartridges, costing $35 each, around $100 today, was rounded out by Ghostbusters, Rocky, and Wonder Boy, where they added some info about the game, where you would enter a dam of terror to find your kidnapped girlfriend. In March 1987, Computer Entertainer number 12 just had a small mention of Wonder Boy advertised under their availability update page, next to a bunch of other Master System games. This shows up on other issues of the same magazine. Next up, in June of the same year, Computer Entertainer Volume 6 number 3 announced on the first page that they would have a review of Wonder Boy coming up. And finally, in Computer Entertainer Volume 6 number 4, we have the very first Wonder Boy review on page 12. Critics didn't expect much, since it wasn't hyped like Space Harrier or Outrun, but it surprised them by being a hidden gem. They say that the game puts you in the shoes of Tom Tom on a quest to rescue his kidnapped girlfriend Tanya, across 14 varied levels, forests, caves, volcanoes, glaciers, deserts, and even the clouds. You fend off enemies by jumping off them or with hatchets, stay fueled with fruits and milk, and pick up fun power-ups like skateboards and guardian angels. Reviewers loved the light-hearted style, whimsical graphics, and how the difficulty ramped up gradually. Features like continues and the ability to enter the game at any starting point made it less frustrating, and the replay value kept players hooked. The verdict was that Wonder Boy was charming, addictive, family-friendly fun, and absolutely worth the $35 price tag. Now we move forward almost 3 years into March 1990, where Electronic Gaming Monthly issue 8 had a section on page 12 about buying and selling used and new games, where you can see Wonder Boy and Wonder Boy in Monsterland, that would be the new game in the series with more role-playing elements, and you can see that they consider the first Wonder Boy to be the most desirable game, since it was more expensive to purchase. Maybe because it was a platformer and gamers weren't used to the RPG style at the time. Then, in October 1990, the Electronic Gaming Monthly issue 15, in page 43, had an article about the Game Gear under the EGM Rates System section, where Wonder Boy was mentioned, saying that the Wonder Boy would appear once again, resembling his first outing on the Master System. In December 1990, I found a mention of Wonder Boy in Brazil, on their magazine A Semana em Ação Especial Games, where they had Wonder Boy on page 42 as a level 2 game in terms of complexity, which means that they considered it a game for intermediate players. In 1991, I found a total of 17 magazines with references of Wonder Boy. Now, to be fair, a lot of these were just repeat ads, so instead of going through every single duplicate, I'll bundle all of those ads together and then zero in on the more relevant content for that year. These 13 magazines showed a mix of the following adverts where Wonder Boy was mentioned. They were adverts for Die Hard Games Club, The Ultimate Games Club, Gametronics, Electronic Games ETC, Video Game Explorium, and this ad that I couldn't understand what's the name of the company advertising. Now that we have the ads out of the way, let's look into the rest of the relevant content I could find in 1991. In May, GamePro issue 22 had a snippet on page 14 for Revenge of Drancon. That was the name for Wonder Boy for the Game Boy in North America. It was in the cutting edge section, where they say that the Game Boy version of Wonder Boy was basically the Master System game in handheld form. They also said it felt longer than the original, but it was fun. In June, Electronic Gaming Monthly issue 23, under the Review Crew section on page 24, got a review for Revenge of Drancon, where 4 journalists gave their own scores. The first reviewer gave it a 7 and said that it was a Super Mario style of play. Ed gave it a 7 as well, and said that it sounded like a sneaky way to sell more Wonder Boy games, but it was now portable and a great traveling game. Martin gave a score of 5, saying the game wasn't anything new and it wasn't one of the more exciting titles for the Game Gear. And finally, SushiX gave it a 6, saying the game does not play as smoothly as on the Master System, but it had good graphics and soundtracks. Taking all reviews into account, the average score was 6.25. In July, Ação Games number 3, under the shorts section on page 16, described Wonder Boy as a classic rescue adventure. Your girlfriend's been kidnapped by a monster. They also said that the game featured 6 missions, each split into 4 stages, 24 levels in total of pure platforming action. Then, in August 1991, Ação Games were at it again in their 4th issue. Here on page 53, they had this small snippet under the top secret section saying that if you collected the SEGA letters to form the word SEGA, you would get an extra life. In October, gamers got a little mention about Wonder Boy on the Electronic Gaming Monthly issue 27 in the Game Gear section, saying that Revenge of Dragoon was basically Wonder Boy on the go. You needed to rescue Tanya from the evil King Drancon, battling through 14 levels packed with enemies. In the Electronic Gaming Monthly's 1992 Video Games Buyer Guide, we got a Revenge of Drancon review on page 48. That was the same review they had in issue 23 that we talked about previously. To finish off 1991, I found in December the Ação Games number 8, where fellow gamer Bruno left a message on the top secret section of the magazine. He shared that in stage 7.3 there's a hidden trick to earn an extra doll, and he explains how to get it. You have the translation into English on screen in case you want the full information. Now we are finally done with 1991, and I only found one other mention of Wonder Boy after this. It was in November 1993 in the Portuguese magazine Megaforce issue 6. I found this Big Toys advert where Wonder Boy shows up on the top of the list in Game Gear, with the price tag of 6,900 escudos, around $39 in 1993. In today's money, that's equivalent to $87. As you can see, there wasn't a lot of publicity around the game and some contradictory information, especially around how many levels the game had in total, where people said 14 levels and some said 24 levels. In the search for some information about the game, I went to the game's manual for the Master System. In the cover, they basically have a similar text as we saw in the magazines. You have to rescue your girl from the clutches of a brutish king. Then start with basic instructions on how to start the game, but right after that they teach you how to cheat. They essentially explain how to do it in the start screen, and then with the D-pad you can choose the area and round you want to play. At first I thought that would be cool for me, since I could experience different parts of the game and not play the whole game for this video, but now I think I understand the reason. They probably thought that the game was too difficult for kids to finish in one sitting. They also have a little more of a backstory, but it's essentially what we saw in the magazine, and they tell you the game is composed of 10 areas with 4 rounds each. And they also have a description of the 14 locations that you will play in. Then they show you who is the main character, Tom. And the God of Death will also try to get you, and then the main villain, the king, the rogue who nabbed your girl. And that's your girl, Tanya. They say you will have to win the last round to save her, and they teach you how to cheat to go to the last round. Interesting. Then they show you items that you will encounter, like eggs, hatchets, skateboards, mushrooms, milks, fruits, letters, potatoes. Wait, are those McDonald's fries? Actually, hold on. They are McDonald's fries. Got it. They probably come from the McDonald's in the middle of the jungle. They also have the SEGA letters, springs, and dolls. I'm going to skip the rest of the manual since it shows you all the enemies. I will talk more about some of them in the next section. First off, let's compare the game of the SEGA Master System and the Game Gear. They really are basically the same game, as you can see in this side by side. Enemies are in the same locations and everything else as well, with some small graphical changes. Also, if you played a lot of NES games, you might notice that this game looks a lot like Adventure Island. See, Wonder Boy was developed by Whetstone, but published by SEGA. SEGA kept the rights to the Wonder Boy game, while Whetstone owned everything else. That means all the code and art. And that little legal twist meant Whetstone would license the game to Hudson Soft, who rebranded it and turned it into the Adventure Island series we know on the NES. Pretty interesting stuff. Like I've said before, Wonder Boy had 9 areas with 4 rounds each, and at the end of every 4th round you got a boss fight. You can only unlock the 10th area if you get all the dolls. The interesting thing about this is that the original arcade game only had 7 areas and an 8th hidden one, so in the home version you got 2 extra areas to play through. The controls in this game are a bit of a struggle for today's standards. The combination of pressing the button 1 and 2 at the same time for long jumps sometimes doesn't register. Also, when you do a long jump, you actually end up doing a few other actions as well. You long jump, plus throw a hatchet if you have one, and get some extra speed. That makes it stopping right after a long jump a bit tricky, especially when moving platforms enter the equation. Also, I thought they had a large number of enemies on the game, but some enemies that I found cool, like the chameleons and the scorpions on Area 4, or the flying squirrels on Area 8, don't appear a lot. From what I remember, they only show up on specific levels, and I wish they showed up more often. I would like to point out a fun enemy. the octopus. From what I could tell, this is the only enemy that has a sound associated with it, and when you die, the music stops, but he keeps making fun of you for a split moment. The bosses in this game are, let's say, special. You just go in there and hit their head. They don't do anything, except when they do, but it's easy to dodge after you go through it once. Now I would like you to know what my real bosses were in this game. These guys, the bees. They are really unpredictable with their movements. Sometimes you have to preemptively throw a hatchet to even be able to jump. And when you don't have the hatchet, you need to study their movements very well. And then at some point, we got some crisscross with bees as well. Now that's just evil. I ended up playing the game until the end, and after 5 hours of gameplay, this was the reward. A bit anticlimactic if you ask me. But at least I had McDonald's fries to make me happy in the journey. As the saying goes, what matters most are the fries you get along the way. In conclusion, I believe the game isn't up to par for today's standards, but it's a fun old platformer. And since you can select levels at ease, it's easy to go around and have some experiences with the game. What do you think about the game? If you have never played it, are you thinking about trying it? Let us know in the comments below. And that's all from me. If you enjoyed the video, please help me by liking and sharing it. Goodbye.